Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WPwatercooler episode number 264. Today's topic is going to be, is WordPress the best tool for the job? And a few other things we're going to talk about as well today.
Do we have topics anymore?
We do. We have topics. We talk about the show before the show now. We totally changed the entire format. Before we
I've lost track.
This particular episode is brought to you by presslinks.com. Go over to presslinks.com. You can learn about all the cool stuff that's going on the internet and all the fun things that we find that we share on the internet on Presslinks. All right, let's go around real quick. Get everyone introduced. Bobbie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I'm Bobbie, independent WordPress consultant, and longtime user, and just general crazy person.
That's different.
Not like that. Damn it,
Sorry. Right off the bat.
That's a different meeting. That's a different meeting altogether. John, how about you? Tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm John Brown. I run an agency called Nine Seeds. Focuses on custom WordPress development, plugins, and theme sales as well. I run that while I'm a full-time nomad, traveling all over the world. Today, actually joining everybody from Maui, Hawaii.
Plug. Russ left you. Russ is like, I'm done with this.
I know. Russ is just like, mic drop, damn it.
Well, we pissed him off early.
So good to have you on, John, as always. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with us. How about you, Say? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Who am I? Who am I? That is a great question. But you can talk to me at Say Read Media on all the things. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress, and I do other stuff too. So, that's it.
Awesome.
That's all I got today.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Say, Steve, what about you? Who are you interviewing today?
Well, apparently I'm in an interrogation room. So I'm Steve Zengit. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
Awesome, man. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter, and my website is jasontucker.blog, and you can find all the cool stuff that I do over there on that site. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some fun stuff. So,
can we talk about your earpods? They're cracking me up. Yeah, sorry.
What? I don't.
Why? The cordless earpods? You don't like them?
They look so weird.
It always, it does look. It's definitely different when you see somebody walking around with those, because you're like, where's the
covers? I actually have black covers for them that go over them.
It looks like it's dripping.
Except they always look like they're sticking out. Like they're just.
If you wear them wrong, then you can make them stick out.
So many people wear them and they look like misplaced earrings. It's like, I think that wasn't where you meant for that to go.
Yeah, but the third-party ones that don't have the little stick, like go in your ear, and when you see somebody with one of those, you're like, what is that thing? What is that in your ear?
Something stuck in his ear, like he jammed something into it.
Yes.
What happened?
I've been wearing these for 15 episodes.
I don't know. We just decided.
I was gone for a while. I'm sorry for the segue, guys, and everyone who can't see his earpods. I apologize.
One of these days we have to just skip WordPress and talk about all the gear that goes into
Don't apologize. This is how we felt time.
This is it. Yeah, that was a planned question.
This may be the fastest we've ever gone off the rails, though, because
it was pretty quick.
Start.
Yeah.
Well, we changed formats a little bit a couple episodes, John, and we did that so that way we don't have to worry about the Rails anymore. The Rails,
yes,
we essentially
off the Rails.
We essentially build the airplane while it's flying.
We're just all going to dance around the water cooler instead.
That's kind of what we're aiming for, actually. We decided to get in touch with our inner off the rails and just embrace it. Sometimes, you got to go with what has the energy. Anyway,
Jason, bring us back around.
What were you saying, Jason? Something happened.
Well, yeah. So I don't know. During the pre-show, we were kind of talking a little bit about this idea: is WordPress always the right tool for the job? And that was kind of this thing that just kept coming up over and over again. Russ had this idea about a particular site that he was working on. Bobbie knew a little bit about it, so maybe she could discuss a little bit about it as well. But using EDD with PayPal and not being able to have multiple transactions occur or something like that. How did that work, Bobbie?
Yeah, so it was using EDD subscriptions and not like being able, actually it was more of being able to send multiple recurring payments to Stripe. So like it's a little weird. And the fact that Stripe uses your own site's cron jobs in order to send the transaction information. So if your site goes down for any reason, or your cron just doesn't work, decides to work one day, no transactions get processed.
There's another factor to be aware of as well. Some hosts limit the timeout of the PHP script. So if you have a lot of recurring transactions that need to process at one time, and you're on a host with a 60-second timeout, they just stop.
WP100.
Oh, I didn't mention any names, did you? That's a weird cough. That's a weird cough, you guys. They're actually, as much of a, I'm a huge WP fan. I have a lot of clients.
Totally.
But this is one limitation that can screw you up if you've got recurring transactions, or excuse me, really any sort of bulky cron job. Their timeout is very limiting.
Yeah, and I want to say this for WP Engine. This is only on their shared, and they do this so that everybody who's on that server node, everybody kind of gets the chance to run things, and it keeps their CPUs good. I totally get it. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. So if you're going to, and this is from Patrick Garman himself, he's like, Bobbie, get your e-commerce clients onto dedicated. Don't go with the shared stuff. That's never going to happen, because there's so much stuff that you're running on e-commerce sites. Not just the transactions like Stripe and sending all the cron jobs, but we're also talking marketing avenues and advertising avenues that are going to be sending API requests. Klaviyo, Mailchimp, those types of things are going to be sending a lot of API requests. Things like ShipStation too. They're going to be coming in and saying, "Hey, give me all these orders." That's going to take a long time. You really need to, not be on shared if you're going to be running, any type of like big popular e-commerce. And the moment that you get popular, go to dedicated.
I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb overall, because it's not just for e-commerce. It's for, if your business, it's mostly for business sites. But I mean, if your business depends on your website in any facet of that, whether it's a intake form for your customer flow or a transaction for an actual sale, you should not be risking it and paying the cheapy version.
And I was going to say,
in the context of goods,
I was going to take Bobbie's statement a step further and say, not the moment you can become popular or go dedicated. I would say, look for those warning signs ahead of time, because if you wait till the moment you go popular, your server's going to go down.
And you're so sad. Yeah. So sad. There's nothing worse than that.
It's important. People say that's a good problem to have. No way. That's not a good problem to have.
No, it's not. No, it hurts your belly. It's like everyone's belly starts twisting. The site's down, and then whatever amount of time that the site is down is like agony. So don't do it.
Yeah.
Let's say you, John.
Down is never a good thing. But I was going to say, you have to take it in context. We're talking about e-commerce here, in specifically WP Engine's shared plans, which are like their personal and pro. And I don't know if you noticed, but they just rebranded all of their packages and changed their platform. So prices went up a little bit, and functionality went up a little bit too.
Well, prices
it's really a big,
and the amount of installs went down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, the amount of active installs went down, which is they're grandfathering people in, but they're the existing clients. But it is a big pricing shift, and it moves to a new platform that's Kubernetes based and really pretty cool. So hopefully some of those shared issues will no longer be an issue on the new platform. But,
I just launched
I
site.
I just want to clear, when we're talking about a lot of sites, they still do really well on that kind of premium shared hosting like WP Engine offers. When you are talking about e-commerce, being down is never, ever a good thing, right? Like, you want to be on dedicated. You probably want to be on a VPS that's managed. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm a huge fan of WP Engine. Like I said, got many clients there.
Oh, I think we all are. Yeah.
Liquid Web has a new offering now as well for specific WooCommerce. Well, and if you are looking at running a serious WooCommerce store, it's something you might want to look at.
That's what, $250 a month for the?
Yeah, I think that's what it starts at.
Yeah. It looks really interesting. I haven't been able to justify that for the smaller e-commerce stores we tend to work on.
Well, but here's what you have to compare that to, right? So, we do some work now in the Shopify space, right? Shopify starts at that price, right? That's just for a very basic Shopify site. So if you're serious about making money, that's $250 is not a lot of money.
No, I think it's reasonable. Like, we just haven't gotten there yet. It's a new offering. We have a couple of clients we could probably move e-commerce-wise there, but just haven't yet.
I will say,
I'm looking forward to also hearing, having been on Liquid Web's bleeding edge for quite a few times, I'm looking forward to hearing some feedback about that WooCommerce product before I jump on board. So.
Right there with you.
That's it.
Did that bleeding edge
segue to that? Funny thing, I'm actually working with a client. We're going through their 15-day trial. So far, it's been kind of cool. We did a lot of optimization during a redesign, so that was already happening, and they didn't really find much more. But we're seeing a bit of speed, and like you were talking about, John, they're using the same platform that WP Engine is moving to. So we've seen a bit of boost of performance, but we can't hook it up to a lot of the API stuff just because it's not an actual running site. But hey, maybe you guys can talk a bit about like load testing. What kind of tools do you use for some of that like automated kind of thing, if that is a good thing inside of WordPress?
Mm-hmm. Are we switching gears now?
We can.
I like it. No, I like it. So if you are interested in what Bobbie just brought up, do a search on WordPress TV for Jason Cosper, who gave a great session about load testing at WordCamp San Diego last year. He talks about a lot of stop it. He talks about a lot of the tools that are out there and how to use them, how to implement them into your WordPress site. Say, do you have a comment? You seem to be snickering.
Nope. I'm not laughing at anything. I don't know what you're talking about. What
Okay,
are you implying?
let me try. I'm gonna try a quick experiment. Ready? Load testing.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah. Go 5. Who would have thought?
You can't prove anything. That was an invalidated test. That was not A/B testing.
Yeah,
it was invalid.
Say's sense of humor stopped maturing at about age 12.
No, for girls that's way later. Okay.
There's a new tool I just heard about.
Wait, what?
Any of you been used by? No, Flood.io is one of the big names in load testing, and they just released a new browser extension that helps you like map user flows, and it looks awesome. I haven't used it. I'm just curious if anybody has, because you can do actual like checkout process kind of load testing where you're not just doing single page hits. You're doing multi-page, add to cart, checkout kind of stuff.
Like providing it a path and having to go through that path?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think the testing is in its like heyday right now. I feel that the ability to not just A/B test, but like ABCD 12 million test and like cross test and load test and just like literally every test, there's so much. And it makes me wonder, at what point are we optimizing ourselves into dullness? That's a philosophical question.
Yeah, I don't know that you can test enough. And what we're battling against really is ultimately it's user experience, but we're really battling against the Google machine, right? So the Google algorithm keeps getting tweaked, and if your site's not up to speed, no pun intended, then Google's gonna ding you for it.
Google's really gonna ding you.
Yeah, speed really does factor into your search engine ranking.
So I just did a interview post with the Beaver Builder folks who had noticed that WP Engine had redesigned their new homepage with Beaver Builder, of all things. And it came up in the Facebook Advanced WordPress group, which I help admin with many other people. And a couple of people looked at the web page test performance analysis of it, and it was taking 10 seconds for the page to complete. And they immediately jumped on this bandwagon of like, look at how slow it is. It's Beaver Builder, it's WP Engine, it's slow. And if you know what you're doing, and this is what the article that Beaver Builder wrote up with this interview, the actual page load is under 1.5 seconds. It's super fast. It's that they are loading 7 or 8 tracking scripts like Hotjar and Analytics and live chat and all these things, and they're properly deferred to load late. But like performance testing has gotten a lot more complicated in terms of what you need to know, but like that load speed is super important, and it's about the perception of load speed, which my favorite tool, which is webpagetest.net, I always forget, I think it's .net, has a thing called speed index, which is like above the fold rendering, for lack of a better way to explain it. And we really need to start migrating towards paying attention to that and kind of the user perception, because that's what Google's looking at. They are not looking anymore at your site took 20 seconds to load. They're looking at user perception of everything.
But they're also looking at page size, right? And so, and one of the factors, I'm not an SEO expert, but I learned this from my my SEO consultant recently, is one of the major factors in the Google algorithm that we have to pay attention to is what's called text to HTML ratio. I know I'm switching gears a little bit, but text to HTML ratio tells you how much, basically it's how Google looks at the page to see how much content versus other stuff you have. Other stuff meaning CSS, JavaScript, layout, HTML, and ads, right? And so ads all factor into that content to HTML ratio. And the reason I bring this up is we've got a client who shall remain nameless, where our pages, all of our pages are well under a meg, right? So the pages load great when there's no ads. As soon as they put all the ad scripts in place, 9 megs.
Yep.
We've
got
got
greater than 35%. It's like greater than 35% or something like that for the coverage on the screen, right?
That's right. And so this is just to piggyback on what John was saying is you have to look at what all these external networks are doing, right? Whether it's ads or tracking scripts or Facebook pixels or any of this stuff, it all factors in.
Well, and the important thing is it's a trade-off, right? It's always is it worth the cost, right? Is it worth the cost of slowing down your page a tiny bit to run Hotjar and find out some analytics as to what people are interacting with? Is it worth running these ads to get revenue versus, and sometimes it's worth it temporarily. Sometimes it's worth it all the time. But just like you were saying, Steve, we have a client who's a publisher who runs Federated Media, AdWords, DoubleClick for Publisher, Komuna, Pub Exchange, has like
Taboola,
like Taboola, Contextly, like every single
Outbrain.
They have an agreement with, and they're like, they stuff the ads like crazy. And then it's like, why is our page load so slow? And I'm like, well, when I load it in ad blocker, not that I would ever use that myself, right?
Sure.
Always. Or I set up a test page that doesn't load those ad scripts. The page loads in under 2 seconds. It's fantastic. It's a big, complicated page, and it loads super fast. But then these ad networks just bring it to an absolute crawl, and it's a matter of figuring out for them revenue versus how can we still get people to come to the page, read it, share it, and interact with it without completely.
And my clients want to stuff all those ads in there just like your clients do, right? Put up all the ads on the page. Problem is, ultimately, that's going to reduce traffic, which means you're not going to get the eyeballs to come to the ads in the first place. So it is a balance.
It's so backwards. It's very frustrating. But also all of those test scripts and social scripts and all that stuff, if you run that on every single page, what I'm finding is that people are testing things and then not paying attention to the tests. They've just got tests and tests running, and there's a test, and then it's like, well, are you doing anything with this test? What are you actually testing for? Just because one has a tool that one can use does not mean that you should just use it everywhere.
Well,
what?
I want to back up to something.
Statement for our time. And that's all I have to say about that. Hashtag
placing ads on a site is effectively pricing, right? Like it is the same kind of price pain threshold that you get, right? Like, will they pay $50 for it? Will they pay $100 for it? Will they tolerate 1 ad? Will they tolerate 5 ads? Like it's the same kind of pricing dynamic or graph that you go through with everything else. Because at the end of the day, I want my client to put lots of ads on their site, make lots of money so that they can pay me. Like I don't get paid if they don't get paid. So it's always these.
But ultimately, you want them to make money, right? So you have to help them strike that balance. We started,
they are prone to shooting themselves in the foot. So
we started.
That's what I'm trying to say. A lot of shoot footing. But
we started talking about load testing, but that we kind of skewed off into speed testing, right? Another thing another type of testing, because Say brought it up. She said you got all these tests. Well, there are different tests to test different things, right?
Yeah.
And one of the tools that we use for regression testing is called Ghost Inspector. And so Ghost Inspector is a great tool because what it does is every time we publish a change, Ghost Inspector goes through the entire site and looks at the percentage of change on the pages visually, right? And so what it can basically say is we can set the threshold, but if it's more than X% off, something went wrong, and then we can go in and see if there's a bug on that page.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
it's great because sorry, Jason, because
regression has something like that, right?
Regression testing takes a lot of time, right? You could push out just the smallest code change and have it affect a page that's way buried in your site. Your client, I guarantee you, Murphy's Law is your client's going to go to that page next.
Yeah.
And notice that it's broken.
They're like, this is broken. You haven't been there in 3 years. How do you know that now?
Didn't Tyler Digital make something like that? The staging pilot software where it's able to kind of look at the screen and see what's going on with that. I'm actually going to have him on the show a couple weeks from now, where he's going to be kind of doing a full demo of how that particular product works and stuff.
The Blab.
So, feel free to go take a look at that. That's going to be pretty fun. Now it's got another show I'm doing called WP Show and Tell, and we're going to be doing a whole kind of walkthrough of how his product works. So that should be.
I really love that show. That show is really fun. I like that.
It's cool. It's like a demo.
One of the other
cross-plug.
One of the other since we are mentioning testing, one of the other tools to put in your toolbox is Browser Stack.
Oh yeah.
So care to elaborate on that one?
I'm just letting everybody
put it in there.
Like Browser Stack does a test in one shot of multiple browsers and multiple devices and multiple platforms. It's pretty
it even loads of VMs, and we'll load up a VM and play it in a VM on like a mobile device or what have you. It's awesome.
So you can see how messed up Chrome is all the time?
Yeah.
Figure out that IE still doesn't support CSS Grid.
Graphic rendering does it so well.
IE6 for Mac.
Yeah.
Don't test for that. Just stop. Just stop. Just don't. Just never do it.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
I know, but
hear so many good things about Browser Stack. I want to put a plug in there for Browser Stack. I hear great things about it, but it's funny because I don't use it much. I let other people do cross-browser testing, not me. I mean, 9seeds does it. I don't want to pretend that 9seeds doesn't, just not me. But there's a tool out there called Blisk, which is a browser. It's blisk.io, and it's basically a WebKit Chrome browser, but it gives you a side-by-side panel of a mobile view and a desktop view that's synced up the same way Browser Sync does, if you've ever used it. And it lets you use the Chrome Dev Inspector tools in both panels, which is really nice because that's what I'm super comfortable with.
Yeah.
So I am grabbing this right now.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've been using it for a long time. One caveat, being a Nomad, it doesn't work offline because they validate their license every single time you spin it up, which drives me crazy on airplanes and when I'm actually without Wi-Fi. But with that one caveat, it's been a fantastic thing. And it is important to realize the mobile view doesn't use a mobile kit. It doesn't use, it's using WebKit Chrome. It's not using mobile Safari for rendering. So there are a few little browser glitches that are mobile only that it won't detect. That's when you need Browser Stack, which is why I was coming full circle with all that. But Blisk.io is awesome.
Cool.
But seriously, that side-by-side is great, especially with the developer tool, because going back and forth between the two versions to try to find the damn thing, it's like the worst.
It's got presets for like every mobile device you would ever want to target, right? Like you're like, I want to be an iPhone X. I want to be a Galaxy 6. I want to be a Fire tablet. I want to be a whatever. And it'll just snap to the right preview. And then you can screenshot that and send it to clients, which is really nice as well.
Because they want to know, I guess, maybe what it looks like in a mobile browser. Maybe not. So they're like, Chrome and Firefox. That's fascinating.
Well, come on. You've had the client who's like, it doesn't look right on my Galaxy S4. And you're
Actually,
like,
that's where Browser Stacks Automate is pretty awesome for that too, because you just tell it go and spin up a whole bunch of these and look at them all, and you can look at them all at the exact same time and be able to kind of dig through it. So yeah, I mean, browser stack's not cheap, but when you can say literally I can pull up any one of these, phones and be able to figure out what's up with it, $100 a month is definitely worth it.
What's your time worth?
Is that how much you pay? I only pay 40.
Yeah.
No, the $100 a month one does the automation built in.
Right.
Bobbie got the hookup. No, Bobbie just did the automated one.
I don't do the automated just because, like, I don't know. I just don't do the automated. If I'm seeing a problem, I just want to be able to go to the device and take a look. But that's just me.
It also has a screenshot API, so that way you could just tell it generate a screenshot on all of these, and it just quickly just provides. Yeah,
that's pretty badass.
Oh, that's nice.
And they have a feature where you could test local too.
Yeah, you sure can.
It's pretty awesome. So, kind of going back to like what we were talking about before in the pre-show, like. One of my pain points, I know, where you weren't there. Anyways, one of the pain points that I've discovered, like trying to get WordPress to do something, is like handling events and calendar type things. It just doesn't really seem to be like the best tool for that. And usually, like I'm finding a lot of times I'm reaching for like a non-WordPress solution to actually handle that and just present it in an iframe. So I'm curious, like what everyone else's pain points where WordPress just isn't the right tool for something.
Are you using ECP?
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? Events Calendar Pro? Because I love that. It's so great. I just launched a site with like all sorts of plugins and add-ons for that, including community add-on, which is super great.
It is.
And customizing the organizers page and the venues pages. To me, I feel like it gives me so much control actually, with some built-in, like, and it even has the ability, I love the thing where it's like, do you want to use basic CSS or RCSS? Like right in the admin, I don't even have to go customize stuff right away. But you can take it to that level where you're really customizing every piece of that. And I feel it's great.
I think, and I haven't used ECP in a while. And the last time that I did, and this has been like, I think maybe 2 years ago, the last time I did, I hated it just because I didn't like their templating engine. And making any kind of customizations was just a pain. So I switched over and used like some old I had an old PHP library just hanging out that I used to use back in the Nuke days, and just iframed it because I was just like, the customizations are taking way too long. So maybe they've gotten better in the last couple of years. I will admit that.
Their templating system is very similar to WooCommerce, right? So you copy out the template you want, you put it in your theme, and you make customizations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess they've changed recently, because a couple of years ago that was not the case. Like if you wanted to go in and make some customizations, you had to go and try and find and like redo functions, and it was really kooky.
So
they also have I was just gonna say they also have Events Calendar Pro also recently launched a cross-platform tool called Lumens, might be Lumens. It's probably not Lumens. I think that's trademark. Someone can look it up. But anyway, so you can use it as a calendar, and then you can use it on whatever platform you need to use it on. So if this is the calendar is a big component of the client site, you can kind of have an external calendar, and that way if they kind of jump around between platforms, you can continue to move that around with them. So that's a new thing that they just launched, which I have not gone deep into it all. I've done just some cursory looking at that, which is why I don't know what the name is.
So we mentioned Events Calendar Pro. I'm going to tell you the one not to use. It's called Events Manager. It's a different plugin which sounds similar. It's not. Trust me on this one. This is a very
they all sound the same.
It's a very bloated plugin that it adds so much to your database that just having a few events and locations in there is it gets unwieldy fast. So I normally don't feel this strongly, but I've had some experience with Events Manager.
You also can, with Events Calendar Pro, so the events are a custom post type, so you can do all sorts of stuff with that. So you can, for example, use like user role editors to, block the events or show the events to different users. So you have a lot of, because of the way that it's built, you have a lot of control over it as you would with the rest of the components. So it really, to me, the Events Calendar Pro just really is integral to WordPress and works like WordPress. So I'm a fan, and I still don't know what that other thing is called. Sorry.
Well, I'm going to chime in on the Events Manager thing. That's one I used a long time ago, and it's love-hate. It did one thing I remember that the other ones, like the Events Calendar Pro, didn't do, and Events Manager did. And we used it for that reason, but man, upgrading was always hard, and we finally stopped using it. I don't miss it, but I wouldn't give it I'd give it a kind of a horizontal thumb, not a full thumbs down.
Let's go on the downswing.
I don't even want to know what a horizontal thumb is. We didn't get a chance to talk about my awesome site that I launched this week.
It's like,
the time's up.
Damn it. Let's talk about it next week.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, well, yeah, you'll have to pitch that during the pre-show next week. So that's about it, folks. Go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com. Click on the links there to subscribe. WPwatercooler/subscribe is where you can get that information. .com/subscribe. And then if you want to sponsor this particular show, you can go to WPwatercooler.com/sponsor, and you can learn about all the sponsorships that we can do over there. All right, folks, that's about it. You have a good rest of your day. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.